Hello and welcome back to another Times Cryptic Crossword Masterclass. We'll be looking at today's Times crossword. You might be able to see from my times on the screen that the last three puzzles have all been done in 4 minutes and something. I promise I won't do it in 4 minutes and something today. I will talk you through what we're doing as we solve. So it's quite a big weekend in terms of cryptic crosswords. Tomorrow is the Times Crossword Championship, and Simon and I will be going along and see how we do at that. I think there's a field of 100 from what I understand. I hope everybody's in it. I hope John McCabe and Matthew Marcus and Jason James will all be there because and other previous winners like Roger Crabtree and Helen Ulm. So, then it'll be a really good contest. Now, Shane, my friend Shane Shabankare, who's finished second in the past, he won't be competing, but I'm sure he'll be there because he's currently the editor of the Times Crossword. So I imagine he will have had a hand in selecting and amending and testing the puzzles on site. So that's an interesting instance of poacher turned gamekeeper. That's the way around it goes. So anyway, we're really looking forward to catching up with a lot of people that we know from the crossword scene who basically meet definitely this once a year and not that often otherwise. So it'll be entertaining. That's in London. Now, what else is going on? We got a puzzle in from James Murdoch, who said, I know you don't encourage people to send crosswords in, but I started writing a clue or two and then I put it together in a puzzle and here it is. And I had to go at it, and well done, James. I'm actually going to attach a link so you guys can have a go at it if you want. The analogy I would draw with people who send us their first crossword is, I hope this doesn't sound too cruel, but if you watched football on the TV and you spent some time learning all the rules of football, and then you played a game finally, you might think that you've done quite well, but it's pretty clear that until you've played dozens of games, you won't be as good as you can be. And I'm not aiming this particularly at James, because as I say, we do get quite a lot of first efforts sent in, but the puzzles that we feature on the channel are by setters who have set literally hundreds, often thousands of puzzles and have honed their skills very, very finely, which is what puts them at the top of the game. So all the puzzles we'll solve at tomorrow's championship will have been set by people who will have set hundreds of puzzles before. Otherwise, they wouldn't be setting for the Times newspaper. Anyway, it's still a very good effort from James. Simon highly commended one across, and there's a couple of superb and lit clues in it. We'll see if we get any in today's puzzle. I am also going to give a quick shout out for a birthday to Harriet. Harriet, we know it's your birthday because you wrote to us to tell us, as last year, and you've even started doing the odd cryptic crossword, so I hope you're watching this video, and happy birthday. But all of that said, I am going to get on with the puzzle now. So the website seems to be going slowly. We'll see how long it takes to load up. But then we will just plunge in with the Times Cryptic number 29051. Here it is. Okay, so one across, 7 letters. Where to see Etonians gain military award, right? Now, Etonians, public school boys, that's quite odd to me. But I'm looking at the end of that clue, and we're always looking for short synonyms and abbreviations. Right is so often the letter R that might be what it is. Now, there's a military award before that. Now, there are quite a number of military awards, but there are only a few that feature in the puzzle, like the OM, the Order of Merit. Actually, that may not even be military, but MME, is that one of them? I don't know, I can't quite see this. And, oh, hang on, gain, I need to focus on the word gain. Again, a short synonym for gain is win. And if we're thinking of a word beginning with win and ending with R, Well, Windsor. You might see Etonians in Windsor because the town of Eton is right next to Windsor. In fact, I think the schoolboys constantly walking past Windsor Castle all the time. Windsor and Eton is basically almost a single unit. So that would leave DSO as the military award, and that is the Distinguished Service Order. So Windsor is the answer to 1 across. Well done if you got that quickly. There's quite a few bits to pick out there. Right, 1 down. Condiment, 6-letter condiment beginning with W. Condiment seems likely to be the definition. I can think of one, and we'll see if it's right. Condiment is no longer somewhat timeless. The only condiment I could think of that's 6 letters beginning with W is wasabi. Is no longer, well, that's was. Is no longer, it's is, but not in the present tense. In the past tense is was. Somewhat timeless. Well, timeless suggests taking a T off something, and a bit is somewhat. So we've got was a bit without the T, and that's wasabi. And I always like the structure of clues where the pronunciation of the answer is very different from the pronunciation of the wordplay parts. And really, was a bit has very little in common with the pronunciation of wasabi. So that's quite clever. Now, I'm going to try 11 across. 6 letters beginning with B. Eastern ascetic from China, curtailed expression of triumph. Why am I thinking of the word booyah? Is that even a word? Probably not. It would have hey you backwards. No, I'm absolutely not getting that. Right, that was a wrong clue to look at. Let's look at 2 down beginning with an N. Return of police force, question mark. A day is not settled. Well, a day is settled could be an anagram indicator. And A with D for day and is not would be 7 letters including an N. However, return of police force feels quite specific. There are a few police forces that turn up in crossword clues. RUC, CID. I can't think of any ending in N, and a day is not settled. Nomadic would mean not settled, but I can't see how that would fit the clue. So I'm going to move on to, let's try 4 down, because at least we've got 25% of that in the grid already. Are you texting personnel in mining area? Are you texting I have seen before. I mean, this is referring to the fact that for crossword setters, the words are you only become the letters are you if you are apparently texting. Now, when I text, I don't abbreviate those, but maybe when most people do, they do. So I think this begins are you. Personnel department in a company is often called HR for human resources. And that leaves us with Ruhr, which is a mining area of Germany, or certainly an industrial area. So I'm going with that as the answer because the wordplay was pretty clear. 3 down. American's knockout has failed punching morose drunk. Punching morose drunk. Right, has failed looks like an anagram of has. And morose drunk suggests an anagram of morose. So I think we're looking to put an anagram of has inside an anagram of morose. American's knockout suggests to me we're looking for a slang term in America for a knockout punch. I'm not seeing what that is. Smasharoo. Yeah, that probably is right. Smasharoo. So that just comes from analysing the available letters. Okay, now I'm finally going to take on 9 across. Could it begin with stomach or spinach? We will see. Experienced fellow, feeling stymied, has cracked, admitting pressure. Well, we just had has failed, which was an anagram of has. This looks a bit like has cracked, being an anagram of has. Or maybe the stymied. So the way I read the clue is the way it's meant to be read on the surface. Experienced fellow, feeling stymied, has cracked, admitting pressure. But if you read the first three words together and stop there, experienced fellow feeling is to sort of have a camaraderie feeling. And then we could have an anagram of stymied has, admitting P for pressure. And I don't know what the answer for this is yet, but I do now. It's sympathized, which is experienced fellow feeling. That's very well worded as a clue. I really like that. So nomadic would still work at 2 down. I don't know why that would be right, but that would give me a D at 11 across, which would make this Buddha, which is pretty appropriate for Eastern ascetic. So Y is from China. China, that is Cockney rhyming slang for a friend, China plate, mate. And another word for that is bud, or buddy. And if that's curtailed, you've taken off its tail, the Y, and the expression of triumph is ha, and that adds together to give Buddha. And again, the pronunciation of buddy and ha is quite different from the pronunciation of Buddha, so I applaud. Right, this really is looking like nomadic now, but now I'm going to have to work. Oh, CID, I did mention that. That's at the end of this. And a day is a mon for Monday. So that's all been returned, and not settled is the definition. That was quite straightforward. If you heard me say nomadic and said, well, it's obviously that, you've mentioned CID, then well done. 14 across. Drinkers, seizing last of beer, obtained capacious bags. Right, well, bags is a slang for trousers, and I'm guessing that capacious trousers is the definition. Cargo trousers. I mean, I would call them cargo pants, but cargo trousers would fit 5'8". Carousers are drinkers. What are they seizing? G-O-T. Why is that last of beer? Oh, they're also seizing an R before the second R in cargo trousers. So R got, which is last of beer and obtained, is going into carousers to give us cargo trousers. As I say, I wouldn't have recognised that term necessarily, but I do know cargo pants. Capacious bags, that's very neat definition. One of the hardest things as a crossword compiler is to come up with a definition that on its own is misleading. It's a skill that is practiced very widely in American crosswords as well, especially on, say, the harder puzzles in the New York Times. Now, 17 across. Damned academics' way to make 2 lots of us fat. Oh, there's something very clever going on in that clue. Maybe it's just us fat. Yeah, it is. If we anagram us fat, there's not a lot of anagrams of that, but there is one which is Faustus. So that would go at the end of Dr. Faustus, and he was a damned academic. There's a lovely definition. Damned looks like a curse word, but it's actually just saying that he was condemned by the devil. So why is a way to make 2 lots of us fat, Dr. Faustus? Because to doctor can mean to adjust or mess with something, and it's therefore sometimes used as an anagram indicator. And if you were to anagram Faustus, or no, if you were to anagram 2 lots of the word us and fat, you can get Faustus. So it's a kind of reversed clue indication. Let's have a look at 5 down. Following delivery job with roll outside in uniform. Well, both following and delivery jobs makes me think of post, which could begin this word. And yet, interestingly, I don't think that either post is cluing, either that following in the clue is cluing post in the answer, although I think it is in the answer, nor that postmen and women are involved, because I think the only word I can think of that fits is postpartum, which I might have hyphenated. But that means following a birth of a baby, and that's the sort of delivery we're talking about, not something through your letterbox. Well, I certainly hope your babies aren't delivered through your letterbox. So if postpartum is the answer, then job is what's cluing post, not following or delivery. And then role is part, and the outside in uniform is the letters U and M, the outside parts of the word uniform. 6 down. Roles filled by kiddies regularly for traveller. Well, this is where it really helps to do a lot of these puzzles, because as soon as you see regularly in a clue, you're thinking the alternate letters of something. And kiddies looks like it's there not to provide a clue for children or infants or tots or issue, but to provide its alternate letters. Now, K, D, I, S aren't very useful, so let's take the other alternates, I, D, E. The traveller is going to have IDE filling something meaning rolls, and an RR is a Rolls Royce, which can also be called a Rolls. And so the traveller this time is a rider. Let's have a look at 12 across, probably begins with an S. What choirs do, covering e.g. Scarborough Fair. Well, choirs sing. So if that's covering what Scarborough might be an example of, Scarborough is a town in North Yorkshire. It's on the coast, so it's presumably a port. And that works for P something, R something. That will give us sporting once we put port into sing, and that means fair. So this is a classic sort of lift and separate, where you lift Scarborough Fair out of the clue and you separate its two parts. One part is the definition of the whole answer, and one part is within this phrase covering, e.g. Scarborough is giving us port there. Okay, 8 down ends with G something, S something. General, meaning to keep artillerymen back, and a good mechanic. Okay, I'm going to break up the good mechanic there, and AG, because I've seen the G in the answer. So there's something meaning general, which I think is going to be the first letter of the answer and the last 3, or general meaning, and that's keeping back artillerymen, which is probably the RA, the Royal Artillery, and the letters AG for A good. And if the general meaning in this case is a gist, then that would give us garagist. Now, I know garagiste is French for a mechanic. I didn't know there was an English garagist, but every day is a school day in cryptic crosswords. 5 across, giving a wave to page, monarch, and imperial family. Not sure what that is. So what sort of a wave are we giving? Page can be the letter P. Monarch could be king. But although that would fit at the end of parking, it doesn't really seem to work. If you give a permanent wave to somebody in a hair salon, you're perming their hair. And P plus ER for the former monarch, and Ming for the imperial family of China at one time will give us perming. So 7 down. Individually specify setter on cryptic times puzzle finally. So that's a very self-referential meta clue. To individually specify, the first thing I was thinking of was to ID, but I don't think that's right. What I now think might be going on is that the setter, who's referring to himself in the clue, is I. Cryptic is sometimes used as an anagram indicator. The only thing we could anagram here is times. Puzzle finally is giving us the letter E. That's the last letter of puzzle. So if we anagram times correctly, we get itemize, which is to individually specify. Please ignore my split infinitive. Right, 10 across, some corn whiskey dropped by dawn. Well, E something R gives us 2 possibilities, I think, ear and I may have missed something, but I doubt it. Some corn, well, an ear of corn sounds like that must be what's going on. Why is that whiskey dropped by dawn? Well, note the E in whiskey. The normal use of whiskey in a text in Britain would be without the E. And famously, with the E, you're looking at Irish whiskey. Without the E, you're looking at Scotch whiskey or Scottish whiskey. However, in the phonetic alphabet, whiskey is always spelt with the E. And in that case, whiskey might refer to the letter W. And to don something is to wear it. And if you to remove the whiskey from that, you get this ear of corn. 13 down, capers perhaps. We've done exactly half the puzzle. No, I suppose Dr. Faustus has taken us into the bottom half. Capers perhaps in creamy dish, in book put on line. Capers. I mean, the clue is suggesting we're looking at the spicy, what are they, buds of something. But capers can also be frolics or larks or fun. I'm trying to think of something that we can fondue, put a fun into a fondue. No, I don't know the answer here. Put online looks like the definition, or even book put online, although that would be a bit strange. I'm going to move on, I'm afraid, to 15 down. Same mark is with East German Max. I'm not, but let's say I was. Well, we've got utter, given the beginning of given the letters we have beginning this clue, utter for say looks plausible. Max as the definition, that could give us uttermost, the maximum effort, say. So utter, M for mark, which is from the German former currency, and then Ost for East German, because in German the word East is, well, it's probably pronounced Öst, but it's spelled O, maybe O umlaut. ST, but we can drop the accents and diacritics conventionally. Right, so I think that is uttermost. 16 down has got a T, that's a D second. Showing versatility, fitting into a seedy establishment. Well, a seedy establishment, a bar that sort of might be in a basement, is a dive. And that would give us an adjectival ending which fits this definition of showing versatility. Now, fitting, 3 letters for fitting, apt. If we put that into a dive, we've got adaptive, and that is showing versatility. Right, let's try the small one from I. Princess in an opera, surely that's Ida. Not a princess in an operetta. Okay, well, Princess Ida is by Gilbert and Sullivan, so that is an operetta. So the clue is not actually telling us not a princess in an operetta. It's telling us that princess in an operetta is the definition, whereas the wordplay is princess in an opera, not a. And now we're meant to be thinking of Aida, which is, of course, the opera set in Egypt where Aida, I think she falls tragically to her death, from what I remember. But if we take off the first A, we've got Princess Ida instead. Okay, 27 across begins with an E. City with 0 money, deserted by one banking on thrift. Right, I mean, the city, in London, the city has a postcode. The city is a square mile area where all the where some of the financial institutions are based. And that postcode is EC, so city sometimes translates to EC, and we've got an E to start this word. 0 often translates to the letter O because it looks like it. Money deserted by one banking on thrift. Well, I think we're looking at economy having begun like that and with that sort of definition. But why? Money, it would anagram almost. Money deserted by one. Right, okay. Money deserted by, the word money deserted by the word one leaves you MY. And if that is banking or putting inside it on, then you get, okay, sorry, I've finally worked it out. City is EC. The 0 is here, with MY being money deserted by 1, and then that's banking around that. All of that is banking around the word on, and we get to our economy in the end. 18 down. Division of a real is me giving away that I've worked out how to read this straight away. What I should have read out to you is division of a real firm, except in case of evasion over raised tax. But that's a surprisingly long phrase at the start of a clue. And I immediately started thinking about a real, which is a unit of currency in a Spanish-speaking country. And a division of a real might be a 100th of a real. And I'm looking at this in the grid and thinking, well, centavo would fit. Now, if you'd asked me what's a 100th of a real, I'd have been floundering around. I might have come up with centimo. But I'm now thinking the answer is almost definitely going to be centavo. Firm can be CO for company. Case of evasion, or just as we had the outsides of uniform earlier, now we have the outsides of evasion, which are EN, and then the raised tax, VAT, value-added tax, becomes TAV in this, and we get centavo. 21 across, pentagon would fit. God accordingly defends old temple. Well, a pantheon is a temple. It literally means all the gods in Greek, so it's devoted to all the gods. And there are famous ones in Athens and Rome. So Pan is also, as well as, although it's the theon part of pantheon that refers to gods, Pan is a god. The god of the countryside and stuff, I think. So Pan and then meaning accordingly are defending O for old, or defending, shielding, surrounding. O for old, which is another abbreviation that we get used to. So that is pantheon. 22 down, big beast in fashion work turned up. Can you think of a big beast beginning with H and ending with O? I think it's a hippo. So in fashion is hip. And then work can be op, as in a composer's opus, or opus. Now, we must have enough to attack 13 down properly. That was the capers. It's not fun. Capers, perhaps, in creamy dish, in book put online. The clue's not giving me much more, so I'm going to study the letters in the answer space. Could begin with confront, or I really don't know what's going on here. So well done if you know what's happening there. There can't be many words that fit. Roofworthy, that's not really a word. I'm going to come to this hyphenated word at 26 across, 416. Ale bottles on part of sink in standard sizes. Well, I was immediately, 416 beginning with P, I immediately thought of pret-a-manger, probably because I like some of their sandwiches. But pret-a-porter is the alternative French phrase for ready-to-wear. Now, it didn't look like ready-to-wear appeared in this clue, but, of course, in standard sizes effectively means clothes that are made in standard sizes effectively means they are ready-to-wear, which is the direct translation of prêt-à-porter. Anyway. Prêt-à-porter, I suppose that's how you'd say it. So I now need the wordplay of ale bottles on part of sink to give pret-à-porter. Well, porter is a type of ale. So what would that be bottling? Re-tap. And re is on, as in concerning, and part of sink is tap. So that is how it works. I actually thought we'd be looking at pater going backwards. Now I've got to try 13 down, and it's somehow that E can trigger it in my brain. It's so strange, but now I can see very clearly that this doesn't begin con or hoof or roof. It's clearly tomfoolery. Haven't got a clue haven't remembered at all what the clue says. Capers, perhaps. Well, that is a definition of tomfoolery. So now, what is the creamy dish in book put online? Well, the line is probably railway, RY. That leaves me with fool. That can be a creamy dessert dish. And that is going in tome, which can be a book. So frankly the clue wasn't a lot of help, but the checked letters were a ton of help for me. So that's where I was getting that all from. Tomfoolery is a great word, and was the name of the album of Tom Lehrer songs, where I developed my love of those, which is only dwarfed by Simon's love of Tom Lehrer songs, which he knows even more encyclopedically than I do. 19 down. Doubting Thomas Cook's opening putrid stores. Right, Thomas Cook was an old travel agent. I think that's totally irrelevant. Doubting Thomas is a figure in the Bible for somebody who was questioning Jesus. And a doubting Thomas is now a metaphor for anybody who is skeptical. So presumably this is skeptic. Now, that can be spelt with a K, its second letter, which I think is standard in America, or a C second letter, which is standard here. Cook's opening is being stored by septic, which is the translation here of putrid. Now, I'm not sure that septic and putrid are very close translations, but certainly if a wound has gone septic, it would be pretty putrid. So it's the spelling with the C that we needed. 23 across. 23 across. Blair, when writing, wore out liberals. Right. Well, a bit of general knowledge is very useful here. So what I know is that the name Blair has applied, I was going to say to two people in English cultural life, let's say that. One is Tony Blair, the Prime Minister, who it always sounds like you must be talking about. But the other is George Orwell, the writer, whose real name was Eric Blair, and who I recently discovered actually attended Eton despite his very left-wing persona. Anyway, I was thinking there is also Isla Blair, isn't there? There may be other Blairs. Anyway, let's stick with George Orwell because he was Blair, and when writing he was Orwell. So war, we've got an anagram of that to give ORWE, and the liberals are two letters L, and that means Orwell is the answer. Now, 20 down, ruddy duck, free to shelter under fantail's wings. There is a species of duck called a ruddy duck, but I think we can forget about that. What we can remember is that we've seen the edges of uniform and the ends of whatever it was in the other clue, I can't even remember now. And the wings of fantail, which is another breed of duck, are F and L. So we're probably going to put something, meaning free to shelter, under F and L, or duck free to shelter. So a duck in cricket is getting out for 0, so we're back to that O for 0. To free is to rid, and if we shelter O and rid under FL, we get florid, which means red-faced or ruddy. 28 across. Were attractive books bound by European and decorated? So if you try to attract someone, you might entice them. So this looks like enticed. Books, NT for New Testament. Earlier we had a mention of book, and it was a tome. But often books in a crossword clue are either NT or OT for New Testament or Old Testament. And here the NT is being bound by E for European and iced, as in cakes, for decorated. Now, we've just got one word left, but this is a terrifying vowel mix because there are probably over 100 words in English that would fit this, so the clue had better be helpful. Haven't looked at it yet. The four tops in concert are gladly extemporizing a set of bars. Well, luckily, I do know how to read that. Otherwise, you could really be struggling with this. The definition is not very helpful. But the four tops, as soon as I see that, it looks like the band, but it obviously isn't going to mean the band, because how could they be defining something useful for a crossword clue? I don't think they could. So instead I'm looking at the literal meaning of the four tops, and therefore I'm looking at the next four words after the four tops in and seeing what the top letters of those are. Concert, R, gladly extemporizing, gives me C-A-G-E, cage, which is a set of bars in the context of locking away an animal or something. So that's the answer. I mean, I think the fact that C, A, G, and E are four of the musical notes, and this is a very musical sounding clue, is a coincidence. But I think we finished the puzzle and we're ready to submit. I hope I haven't made a typo, because any mistakenly written letter tomorrow will absolutely ruin an attempt to finish highly. But I'm going to submit without leaderboard. How did we do? Did we get it all right? Hopefully the times will tell us. The fact that there are no pink squares suggests we did get everything right. So that's good news. Now, I've just remembered, and I hadn't planned this at all, Simon normally does a quick run, a speed run at the quick cryptic for the day. So I really ought to do that, although it's this homepage that's been difficult. Let's try going to cryptic and see if we can get a menu up. I don't know, there's something wrong with the Times website today. It's being incredibly slow, so I will just try and talk whilst hopefully something will load. Or maybe I could go back. Let's try that. But unfortunately I looked for the cryptics. If we look for the quick cryptics, I don't normally do the quick cryptics, so there won't be a record of my having done these. If this comes up, it does look like it's loading. Okay, so here we go, Friday, October the 18th. And this time I'm just going to go for the fastest time I can, so there'll be very little useful talking, just some gibberish as I blather my way through. Okay, shortest lived briefest is a briefest, that's a classic. Burrowing animals, hounds or nags. Rhetorical strategy from press secretary. I think it's an idiom, but I don't know, I'm not risking that. Paul's friend foolishly admitting one. Freudian slip, anagram there, 4 down. Shake is the sweet drink there, sake. Republican, collared by peace advocate, is teed off, presumably. Arrival, that's a homophone. Ely, regular. Rebuke what people? Dress code. No, dress down. Wrong answer. Maybe witch doctors. Shaman. Okay, that was irony at 2 down. 6 down. Ravioli would fit? No. Don't know what that is. It is something else. Chap touring both sides. Oh, that must be Milan. Is that an industrial city? Maybe. Unwanted mail is spam. Right. This is now Pavlova. Pavlov. Oh, he inspired drooling, of course. People making purchases. Or little green jumpers. Grasshoppers. Wow, that's quite tough. Okay, good. 15 across. Caught in relentless heat. That must be a sheath. Who wouldn't trust you to give you a hand? Who you wouldn't trust to give you a hand? Don't know. Let's try the downs instead. Company with high-flying employees is an airline. Journalist spotted cutting implement is hacksaw. Now, let's go back here. Who you wouldn't trust to give you a hand is a card shop. Like certain wines is sec. Someone who prefers the best portions is hidden, eccentric ruse, eating bagel and French bread. Euros, not many in audition. Annoyed by gesture of respect, one may get fired. Is crossbow. 3 5-letter words to go. Cheap, dined, 8 on starter. Radish. And there we go, shrub. So that is a time of 2 minutes 31, which is nice and quick. Hopefully no typos again. We will see in a moment, won't we? Come on, the Times. What's up with your website? There we go. So no typos apparently. So 2.5 minutes for that one, which is a reasonably standard time for me. There are some beautiful clues there, to be fair. So let's just have a look at one across. Shortest lived gathering for French cheese enthusiasts. This is a little joke. Shortest lived is the definition, briefest. But a gathering for French cheese enthusiasts might be a brie fest, which is very neatly put together. I mean, I have seen it before. 5 across is Uncle Sam putting P in. 9 across used the different meaning of teed off from what you expect in the clue, where it looks like you're annoyed, but in fact you drove your golf ball. 10 across was a homophone for arrival. 11 across was this word regular again, E-L-Y, are regularly appearing in Wesley. 12 across was a double definition. If you rebuke someone, you dress them down. But if somebody wears less formal clothes, they dress down. 13 was sham plus an. 15 was hidden in relentless heat, higher. 17 was the first of 2 cryptic definitions in the puzzle. You wouldn't trust a card sharp to give you a hand, because you wouldn't trust him to deal you a fair hand, which is very neatly phrased. 19 across was the outside letters of Souse and the last one of Barsac. Sec is dry amongst wines. 20 across was hidden. In strudel it is tasty. 21 across used a surprising meaning of bread, which can mean money. So French bread nowadays are euros, or is euros, and that was an anagram with O for bagel because of the shape, and again, a sports meaning of 0 in tennis, I think. 22 was a homophone for F-E-W, few. 23 was the words cross and bow put together to make crossbow. Then we had 1 down, 3 definitions: to hound, to nag, or a burrowing animal for a badger. 2 down was press was iron in this case, and then the last letter of secretary. 3 down was an anagram involving I for 1. 4 down was H in Saki. 6 down was neat. That one fooled me for a bit. It was Pavlov, who incited drooling amongst his dogs by Pavlovian response, and A. And that gave us Pavlova, the meringue dessert named after Anna Pavlova. 7 down, Milan was man around the 2 ends of industrial. The grasshoppers, which are green in this country, maybe not in the rest of the world necessarily, but that was an anagram of rags and then shoppers. 14 was the second cryptic definition, a company with high-flying employees. They are literally high-flying if they're working for an airline, some of them. 16 down, journalist was hack, spotted was saw. 17 down, made me think it might be Creep, a very famous song by Radiohead. And there was a song at the end of the clue, but this was C from the start of concert. That fellow was he, A was A, and piano was P. And that gave us going for a song, or cheap. 18 down was altar, which was 8, receiving the letter L for pound, and then R for the starter of radish. 19 down was an anagram of bush around the letter R for right. And the definition pretty much applies as much as the wordplay to the word shrub. So you'd call that an and lit clue, and literally it means it. So there we go. That's today's crossword masterclass. I hope it was some help in your cryptic journey. Absolute pleasure to be able to bring one of these to you and to talk to you this Friday, and maybe see some of you tomorrow, but otherwise we'll be back with more Sudoku later. Bye for now.